The city that learned to soften. How intentional kindness toward oneself restores alignment. The city never slept. It ticked. Gears the size of buildings turned with patient certainty beneath glass streets. Brass arms rose and fell like breathing giants. Every surface reflected time-polished copper, steel ribs, enamel dials, each marked, measured, accounted for. Rook lived on level 17, where the clocks ran fastest. That was not a metaphor. Time actually moved quicker there. He had chosen it deliberately years ago, believing speed meant progress, and progress meant safety. The faster the hands moved, the more useful he felt. The more useful he felt, the quieter his doubts became. Each morning, before the bell chimed first measure, Rook stepped onto his balcony and watched the city synchronize. Tens of thousands of clock faces aligned in perfect agreement, a chorus of clicks rippling outward like a metallic tide. He breathed in the sound and told himself the same thing he always did: stay useful. The city rewarded usefulness. It always had. In clockwork vast, every citizen served a function. Some regulated pressure valves, some calibrated pendulums, some, like Rook, inspected micro-delays, fractions of seconds, where a gear hesitated or a spring resisted. He was good at it, painfully precise, relentlessly thorough, and tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep cures, the kind that hums beneath the skin, tightening the chest, narrowing the breath. But Rook didn't call it that. He called it discipline. On his way to the inspection halls, he passed mirrors embedded in the walls. They reflected him from every angle, ensuring posture, pace, productivity. The mirrors never lied. They showed a man with tight shoulders, careful steps, eyes always scanning for flaws. He nodded to his reflection. Approval, conditional. Inside the halls, time roared. Gears interlocked overhead. Steam hissed through vents. Supervisors watched from balconies shaped like watch crowns. The city demanded attention, and Rook gave it gladly, until the day the smallest clock stopped. It was a pocket-sized regulator tucked beneath the main drive of District 9, insignificant by scale, critical by placement. When it stalled, the entire district lagged by 3 seconds. 3 seconds might as well have been chaos. Sirens rang, pendulums clashed. Citizens stumbled mid-step as their internal rhythms fell out of sync. Supervisors shouted orders. Rook was dispatched immediately. He knelt beside the tiny mechanism, fingers steady, heart racing. He adjusted the spring. Nothing. He recalibrated the balance wheel. Still nothing. The clock did not resist. It simply refused. Rook frowned. He worked faster, harder, more precisely. His breath shortened. His thoughts sharpened into blades. "Move," he whispered to the gear, as if command alone could force obedience. The clock remained still. For the first time in years, Rook felt something unfamiliar rise in his chest. Not panic, not anger, helplessness. The supervisors exchanged glances above him. Delay reports stacked. The city pulsed impatiently. Rook stood abruptly, dizzy. The floor seemed to tilt, gears blurring. He reached for the railing and missed. He did not fall far, but when he hit the metal platform, the sound echoed louder than it should have. The city noticed. Medics arrived. Efficiency over concern. They scanned him, cleared him, returned him to duty. "Resume when able," one said flatly. Rook nodded. Of course he would. but his hands shook. That night, back on level 17, the clocks outside his window seemed louder, less harmonious. Their ticking no longer soothed him. It pressed against his skull. He lay awake, replaying the moment the clock refused him, the way his effort had not mattered, the way his body had betrayed him. A thought slipped through before he could stop it. What if I'm the stalled gear? He sat up, heart pounding. The city had no patience for malfunctioning parts. The next morning, Rook overslept. It had never happened before. The bell chimed second measure. When he woke, disoriented, panic surged. He dressed quickly, skipped breakfast, skipped breath, skipped kindness. By the time he reached the halls, his chest burned, his thoughts scattered. The mirrors reflected something new strain without purpose. He knelt at his station and immediately made a mistake. A misalignment so small only he would notice. But he noticed, and something inside him cracked, not loudly, quietly, like a hairline fracture spreading beneath pressure. At midday, instead of reporting for recalibration duty, Rook did something unthinkable. He left. No alarm sounded. No supervisor stopped him. The city continued ticking without protest, as if daring him to notice how little it depended on his suffering. He walked without destination, descending levels where time slowed, the air grew warmer, the gears larger, turning with less urgency. Eventually, he reached level 4, the residential underworks, where the city's forgotten components lived. Retired engineers, menders, people who moved slowly and were not corrected for it. There, tucked between massive cogs, sat a woman polishing a cracked hourglass. She looked up as Rook approached, eyes kind, unhurried. "You're early," she said, smiling. "I don't belong here," Rook replied automatically. She tilted her head. "Then why does your breath sound like it finally arrived?" Rook opened his mouth to answer and found nothing there. The woman gestured to the bench beside her. "Sit. You're shaking." "I'm fine." She did not argue. She simply waited. After a moment, Rook sat. They listened to the city together. Down here, the ticking was slower, deeper, more like a heartbeat than a metronome. "I fix broken timepieces," she said eventually, "but not by forcing them." "How then?" Rook asked. "I listen to where they're tired." He scoffed softly. "Machines don't get tired." She smiled, polishing gently. "Neither do people, according to the upper levels." The words landed heavier than expected. Rook watched her hands, steady, patient, kind. She treated the cracked hourglass as if it mattered, even in its brokenness. "What happens if you don't fix them fast enough?" he asked. "They rest longer," she said simply. Rest. The word felt foreign, indulgent, dangerous. That would never work above. Rook said. The city would fall apart. She met his eyes. "Has it?" He thought of the stalled clock, of his fall, of the way the city had continued regardless. "No," he admitted. The woman set the hourglass down. "The city doesn't need your punishment. It needs your alignment." Rook frowned. "Alignment comes from discipline." She shook her head gently. "Alignment comes from kindness toward the part of you that's struggling." The idea unsettled him more than any mechanical failure. Kindness for himself. That evening, Rook returned home with an ache behind his eyes. The clocks still ticked, but he did not rush them. Instead of reviewing schematics, he brewed tea, warm, slow. He felt ridiculous. Yet, as he sat by the window, something inside him loosened. Just a fraction. Enough to breathe. The next day, he made a deliberate choice. One small act. At first measure, instead of tightening his schedule, he paused for 3 full breaths before leaving his apartment. The city did not collapse. At the halls, when his hands trembled, he rested them instead of forcing steadiness. When his chest tightened, he stepped away rather than pushing through. Each choice felt wrong, unproductive, dangerous, and yet his clarity improved. By the end of the week, Rook returned to District 9 and knelt beside the stubborn clock. He did not command it. He did not rush. He noticed a microfracture in the casing, pressure from constant correction. He loosened the housing, allowed space. The gear turned, just once, then again. The district resynchronized, not with force, but with ease. Supervisors praised efficiency. Rook barely heard them. Something deeper had shifted. Over time, Rook carried the practice into his days. Small kindnesses, intentional pauses, gentle self-talk where there had once been harsh correction. The mirrors began to reflect something new, ease, presence, a man aligned with his own rhythm. And slowly, the city changed too, not because Rook fixed it, but because he stopped breaking himself to serve it. Down on level 4, the woman smiled as another clock found its balance. The city ticked on, but now it breathed